Hi guys. So I am going to be doing a reading here with Mike Starr, who was the bassist for Alice in Chains. There are other bands, of course, that he belonged to. And if you want to find out that information, I'll include a basic link so that you can read a bit more about Michael Christopher Starr, who was the bassist for Alice in Chains. I am making this reading a more mediumistic style reading where I just allow Michael to express what he wants to express. And I try to understand. I'm back from the hospital, so forgive the less than perfectly set up situation. But good enough. And I'm going to be using a couple of decks. I'm drawn to use, of course, the wonderful, of course, I blank on its name. I always do this. Anyway, you all know which one this is. And this one is a new one. It is a, the Dark Romance Oracle. And I just liked some of the definitions that they had on the cards. It's nice and flexible. It has a matte finish. It's a bit of a gloss. But I thought I would start with this deck. I felt drawn to use it. And when I dialed into Mike Starr, oh yeah, you know what I should get is one of my little wood pieces that I can put underneath. But sometimes the cards then slide everywhere. So let's see what we get. We'll use this deck first for him and what he wants to convey. Now let's see. Mike was an Aries. Just got some facts here for you, some basics. And he was born Michael Christopher Starr and in Honolulu, Hawaii, April 4th, 1966. And unfortunately, he passed away March 8th, 2011. Okay. And he was found by Travis Meeks, who was his roommate and also involved in creating Days of New, a band that Mike got involved with after working very hard on his sobriety, which I don't think was a positive move, unfortunately for him, to be able to keep, you have to change kind of environment. And he went back to Salt Lake City against counsel of that he was given apparently after in 2000, around 2010, because he died in 2011. Yes. So he was on Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew Pensky. And Dr. Drew, however way you may feel about him, said, and you could see, I actually watched that, and I saw how ill he was, and it was really moving and made me feel very concerned for him. And I love the band. Their music is, it's really good. Still like it. But it is known great tragedy because Lane Staley the lead singer, passed from a speedball overdose. Or so that's the information I read. And if you watch that celebrity rehab with Mike, I guess it was like what they said was the third, season. You really get to see a lot more deeply into, I think, what is the danger in touring people to pieces. And that's how they have to make their money these days, touring. And touring triggers a lot of unhealthy, risky behavior. From what I could understand, Alice in Chains fired Mike, basically. Both he and Lane Staley were having problems, but they just put it down to personal differences or choices, and that was the public comment for that. Sorry, just a moment. So he unfortunately made some choices that led him back into an environment with other people that, like Travis Meeks, that was still, I think, is struggling with his sobriety to this day. And I wish him all the best. Very talented people, but this is just makes them a shell, It really destroys people. And so he was living with him at the time, and they had formed a band, Days of New. And Travis Meeks found him March 8th, 2011. There's no signs of foul play. And he had died of prescription overdose, according to the sources I could find. He apparently had back pain, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised because touring again and all that jumping around, dancing around, twirling around. Every musician that I think I've read about that's gotten involved in drugs, especially, suffers or was suffering from physical, many times, actual injury to the, hip and back. That's not unusual, and sadly enough. And then, of course, you've got your other wounds that are emotional. When you have a predilection for addiction. So apparently, Dr. Drew Pensky advised him not to seek medical treatment for his back. I don't know what he suggested that he do, but I hope he gave him other suggestions of treatment, because it would seem a bit much just to expect someone who has back issues to go without any kind of therapy. I mean, I would think acupuncture, I would think, the variety. So let's see here what we get, and let's see what Mike Starr wants to share. That sounded like a knock at the door, but we'll find out. Every time I've been sitting here for an hour preparing, finding my camera, and everything. And the minute I turn this sucker on, that's when we get all the people coughing and super loud or knocking on the door or whatever. I hope I don't end up feeling this deck like I do most when I try and shuffle. They end up getting kind of peeling away from the sides. All right, let's see what we get. Michael, Christopher, Starr, what do you want to share with us? Since you're passing, about your passing, whatever it is that you want or wish to share. Okay. Let's see. What do you want to share? Michael, Mike Starr, bassist. What would you like to share with the public? So I'm just going to do this kind of in a Celtic cross fashion and just see what I get. That's what I'm drawn to do firstly, and then read in pairs. So let's see what comes up. Okay, the very first card he's bringing up is destruction. And if you want to know a deck, this is the Dark Romance Oracle. Okay. All right, so he's talking about, I think, destruction of body, mind, and spirit, because it really does empty and destroy. It leaves people a shell. And he's talking about the destruction, the element of destruction in behavior, addiction, that of course amplifies that, makes you take new and stupid risks, you know? All right. Makes sense. We're tracking. He wants to talk about destruction. Okay. All right, Mike. And this is visitor. This is what is crossing destruction. Again, I believe he's wanting to share that association, who, you know, is important, who is around you, who, and again, not blaming that person, but anyone that has had a family member or themselves or both go through issues with addiction knows that you got to change your behavior. And a lot of that means that you won't be hanging out or shouldn't be hanging out at all with people that still use. So I feel like when I get these two cards together, it is talking about an acceleration of destruction by those by by those he was surrounding himself with, choosing to. And this act itself, you know, it's coming to somebody's door. It's, hold on, someone's literally at my door. Mickey, there is someone at the door. I'm having to pause this again. Fucking A. Crazy. Are you kidding me? Am I losing my blooming mind? Are you kidding me? Wow. Okay. Sorry, boo. I heard just an yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I thought, is this another delivery confused or something? Oh my goodness. And it was weird. It came up with the card. Okay, that's so weird. Thank you. Love you too. So weird. So I get fear. And I just want to go over that again. It makes me feel like with these two cards that there was residual holding him back, residual fears that quite hadn't been dealt with. And maybe that's why we're getting this choice that's more destructive in um, associating with people and the environment that you're in and who's in that environment and how healthy they are. He needed to be in an environment where I think old fears would not be triggering the same way. Let me put this on pause. I need to clear my throat. Okay. Now we're going to look at what would be crowning him. What would be crowning Mike Starr's message here? That is another knock. I swear. Someone's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing a bell. I do see a blue jay outside, but this is just weird with that visitor knocking at the door, and I keep getting these knocks. Okay, I've never had this happen. Very strange. We get the card of marriage crowning him. This could be the partnership of the new band, because that's often been compared to a bit of a being in a marriage with however many other people are in the band. You know, it's like a marriage, it's a partnership. From what I understood, also, Mike Starr wanted to spend some time off tour, and the band was wanting to tour. There had been a lot of problems right, I think, before they let him go, because they did let him go during mid-tour. That couldn't have felt too good. But he and Lane Staley were having sobriety problems, to say the least. But Mike was released mid-tour, and he said that he wanted to be off tour, didn't and wanted to get home, and the rest of the band felt differently. And so this was part of it, the tension around the scene, from what I understand. So it's interesting, we do have that marriage card, and we have this whole issue of fear of commitment. I feel like commitment to other people, and it just feels like something quite hadn't been completely cleared through enough for him to make a better choice. So interesting here. Okay. I'm going to look at the past to this whole issue, and he's showing me clarity. Just take a look at this. I'm going to see if I can see what the book is that they're reading. Not really. It's looks to be in another language as well. French. Anyhow, there is clarity in his past. So this could refer to the treatment becoming more clear, you know, concerning the destructive nature of himself and his addiction and his issues with fears that probably, to me go back to like childhood. But it shows prior to this, I feel, act of destruction that he walked toward by the associations he was still connecting with were based on out of fear yet. I think rather than perhaps dealing with the healing that he needed to do in a not in a touring band setup. I think he still was in need of that a different environment, and not one, definitely not one where you have people heavily addicted like the way it was with Days of New around him. So that's interesting. There's clarity. I hear that knock again. I'm not making that noise. This is just weird. Okay, and it's connecting to energy clearing. Yeah, the feeling here for me is there was something that hadn't quite, as I was saying, been kind of cleared away, and it was old fears. I think he needed to work, he's saying he needed to work more on releasing that. And there was still, I believe, a open door to continue to act in a destructive manner or make choices despite maybe knowing better. But he still were people that were crossing his path here. He wasn't strong enough to be around those kind of people yet, I don't believe. He still needed to let go of the destructive, codependent behavior. And he didn't have that. He was still coming from a place, the basis of fear. All right. There were still issues, of course, that came up in the way. Clarity. Yeah, it really has to do a lot with who you surround yourself with, and your environment being supportive. And to me, this is with the marriage card is just any, you can't really see that here. Sorry. That's my stomach. Okay, so when we see the marriage card, it really does, for me, indicate whether it's the personal relationship of being involved in a band, and especially if you're living with another person that they themselves are struggling to keep sober or to stay alive. I'm just feeling like he's pointing me toward he made another codependent choice when he chose to try to create, the band with Travis or be involved in the New Day. Okay, so let's see here. Now we're getting the card of freedom. And these are birds. So there is movement with it's like I think he got a sense of freedom. Enough to want it. But I get with this energy clearing card that there was still kind of a remainder that hadn't been, again, changed. And I feel like it's social. Okay. In the environment is contemplation. And we have a little bat. I think that, again, we're being pointed toward before acting, before thinking and doing, I should have thought long and hard about who and what was in my environment. Okay. So, reminds me so much of my little bear when she puts her little ears down. She's kind of got a little bat face. They're cute. But this makes me feel like he needed more time to heal, definitely, and to clear fear energy out from his life and the whole self-destruction tendency in relationships and partnerships, especially creative music, band, and of course, I'm sure any girlfriends, whatever he had, wives. I really don't know as much about him other than some basics, and I try to leave some because I like the band and everything, but it's good to not know everything and to learn, still learn. So in the area of fears and hopes and fears, we have masking. Isn't that interesting? He's talking about still hiding, still not being able to be upfront, and also hoping, I think, to hide. I believe less than stellar choices that he was making, less than healthy choices that he was making. Now, this is interesting health-wise because this is what the doctors would wear during plague and whatnot, so they wouldn't be exposed, or they could lessen picking up disease. So there's also within this card, to me, the medical reference, an issue of needing professional help yet. A different type of setting, one where he could rest. So being home for him would have been excellent. But again, visitor and needing very much his own space too. I don't think that the roommate with Travis was a good idea at all. That he needed to be on his own and have freedom and realize his own freedom and clear the energy, the codependent tendencies that weren't healthy based on fear he's showing me. Definitely from his past, clearly from his past, needed to be released. But he was still kind of hoping to deny or hoping to hide maybe fearing that at the same time that there was just a mask, or putting on a mask also, appearing well, trying to appear well, trying to appear sober. That could also be part of that. And definitely because it's hopes and fears, definitely getting that vibe. And very interesting. Now, this would be the final card and its endings. This is a wild friggin' reading. The knocks, and like I said, I've never had that happen before, but I am having some kind of new stuff going on. That's just one of them as I'm trying to heal. It's choice, and it's choice about who you let into your life and being more clear on that and releasing. I think now he has the clarity, of course, that, as I've just kind of encapsulated, that his choices made for his ending, because he went back to an old pattern that was going to be the last, I think, time he would be able to, is the choice he made at this time was very critical. And he needed quiet. He needed, really, to me, a much more controlled environment, one that which he could thrive creatively in, but not have where he would not have like the touring actual, and living with somebody that also has had, had big issues with addiction, such as Travis. And again, I'm not going to blame it all on Travis, because it's not that. Again, it's the choice Mike Starr made, and I think we're getting an acknowledgement that he made the choice before he was quite ready to make that choice. I think he's definitely conveying that there was still some destruction and fear that had hold of him that may have been masked or hidden. And he wanted freedom. He really did. This is not for nothing. He wasn't doing this for funsies. This was serious effort, and I feel like he was just a skosh away from being able to release from what, with clarity, to have more clarity, especially on his environment and how that needed to be, where he could, like this cute little bat, contemplate and realize for himself what he needed, and realize that what he needed was rest. And yet, maybe another year, before getting into band work, maybe just writing some songs himself, or kicking some stuff around, but with people that were sober. And it brought about I believe he's showing us the ending there. It wasn't a new day, kind of an end of the day. Okay, now we're going to pull a couple cards paired up and see what Mike Starr wants to continue on and share with us. It's very interesting. I appreciate Mike coming through, literally. The knocking is very interesting, given that crossing card that's still freaking me out in a good way. Okay. There's another knock. All right. Complicated. Periodic table of elements. Chemistry. So we are complicated beings, each one of us. And to me, this is our different reactions to different chemicals that our body creates and that we ingest. And it's going to come with family. Oh, wow. Isn't that interesting? So he's definitely adding that the family predisposition also was very much something that getting clear upon. Did you guys hear that knock again? This is weird. Was needed. Maybe it's just the way the camera's creaky or something. It's just trying to keep it away, make sure it's not touching anything to make that noise. Trying to debunk. That's very interesting. So it is known that in his family, not unlike my own, there are certain perhaps complications where mental health and brain chemistry, and then the things that we are prone to use in a codependent or abusive fashion, how that affects us, you know. And there is divine intervention he has here. So I believe at his end, he had family, maybe family that had suffered under similar circumstances with that had already passed, embrace him. Definitely getting that, and timing, divine intervention and timing. Complicated family, table of elements. So interesting. Timing. The timing. I think that had also the timing definitely not been as it was, he may have definitely made a different choice. That's what else. Unforeseen. And judgment. Okay, well, judgment is having to own responsibility for one's actions, whether no matter, and becoming more aware. So I think he's showing me there's things I didn't realize. The divine intervention and timing could be the look back at his life with sober eyes after one has passed from this world, this earthly realm. And I feel like he's talking about the complication within his own family genetic history and so forth with mental health and predilection to addiction issues. Definitely. It's amazing to me getting this reading. It's like super clear. Thank you, Mike, for doing this. And I really feel like here we're being shown he was being shown his life from the bigger point of view, and also the finer. So how he made people feel and vice versa. You know, definitely showing his past to him in a way that was really edifying, that he wasn't aware of. And I feel like it helped him to become clear about how come some things were for him the way that they were, and the choices he made, good and bad, or less than great, whatever. But I think he was able to understand. It's like knock, 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 knock. That's so weird. Okay. Strength. This is enduring a lot of hardship and also refining your impulsive behavior to just react or respond in a really dramatic way. So this is wisdom as well, because it has endured, it has fortitude. I think he didn't realize also some strengths that he had about himself, and that the divine was able to help him to see. Because unforeseen, I just feel like he's letting me know that he received a lot of clarity by divine consciousness after his life ended. And let's see, numbing, look at this, opium. And to do with the why people numb themselves, especially if there's been abuse, if they've been somebody that's been bullied in some way in the family, or usually it's not just one place, or often there's some, with this card to me, degree of mental, definitely, and physical, many times, enduring someone else's harshness or illogic. To me, this shows, and also the wisdom he gained through the life of being somebody that really tried so hard, really tried very hard, and was serious about it. Like, you know, trying not to fall into the use of a substance to numb themselves, but to rather endure soberly disappointment or fear. Especially fear seems to have been the basis. Let me see what else. That's just kind of incredible to me. These cards, wow, are really making sense to what happened in his life. Okay, now he's showing me the card of love, and this says love potion. Well, a lot of times, you know, people enjoy using substance because it makes them feel less upset or less quote unquote unhappy. They might feel more silly or a happy drunk, whatever. Sometimes it's just an emotional mess. And it comes with the word fate. It was in the cards. Love potion. It was in the cards. I think he was saying, he came into this life to deal with the very real struggle of sobriety. He's going over it with me here. We're dealing with opium and the other cards here where we're dealing with substance and growing awareness and the issue of trying to regain control of your life over a substance having control over your life. So that was part of his lesson here. And it looks to me like his efforts were understood and respected on the other side. And he was able to see a lot more clearly, of course, once he passed on. And I feel like the divine was able to show him how things progressed the way they did through a life review. All right. This is gossip and options. Well, I think this is his way of saying that there was perhaps more gossip going around about the options, the choices. Made. The realization that he also had options. If gossip was a problem for him, I think he needed to understand or to deal with negatives in a positive way, to understand that he had more options than just turning to a substance that made him feel happy or like he didn't care or was numb. Okay. He seems to be still very communicative, so I'm going to see what else. Give him a few more lines here of cards to round this out. Okay. Showing me a clouded and barrier. His mind wasn't clear enough. It just wasn't quite clear enough. He needed to, once again, I think he is conveying, have a bit more time with recuperation and recovery than what the situation was that he chose to kind of jump into. So a clouded mind presents barriers, is what he's showing us. I think he wants other people out there to encourage them to continue no matter what. It's important. You need clarity. Because the clouded frame of mind will only be a barrier to you in life and in any success you want to pursue or talent. And, just in life in general, your relationships, it hangs over you. Oh my goodness. Twin flame. Interesting. I don't know much to anything about his relationships. So if people want to comment that might know more, feel free in the comment section. There was a romance. He couldn't meet up. I think he was very lonely. Okay, this is making like boom sense. I think he wanted to connect to a twin flame, somebody that would be good for him, that he really needed. But there was a barrier to that because his mind was still clouded. So he could not connect up with this person that, or the type of person that would complement him. I think he's met that person on the other side. And just getting that feeling like he's giving me that. So he may have been struggling to find decent relationships like many of us here. What the fudge? Immaturity. He's citing immaturity. Energy vampire. So I feel like he's saying, I just wasn't ready. I would drain people. I wasn't clear. That's what I get. Mischievous. He also, I think, as far as shifting to a bit of a lighter romantic air, I think we're being shown he liked to prank, and I think he would need someone, twin flame, who is all about that and can give the right response back, and they can have fun. So he's talking definitely about an issue with that he would have had with romance in his life while I believe on Earth, and not being mature enough, being not clear enough, not able to give truly a mature relationship, very issues of being very needy here, or maybe picking up also people that are that way, and that would be draining, and there's an immaturity about it. So we see that shift. And this is passageway. So yes, I feel that once he went on to the next world, what we call home, I think he was able to connect with his mischievous twin flame and begin a really satisfying partnership. And remember, before we got the marriage card, I think he really wanted a marriage, wanted to have a healthy relationship, ideally, and wasn't able to do that in his life due to the lack of clarity, immaturity, and the tendency, I believe, to pick people that were not going to be able to give him, be the kind of person he needed for them to be. And he could not be the type of person they would need him to be. So just was not going to work out there. But it's interesting. I feel like on the other side, he did this, finished up this work, and was able to do so. Yeah, that there had been, he had reached an impasse. And was uncertain. But I think he met someone on the other side. I think that had been really, really important to him. And yes, there's movement out of the rut that he had been in, where romance or picking the same kind of types of relationship or dysfunction over and over again. Again, I have no idea about girlfriends or anything like that or anything. This is offer. So I feel like with these two cards, I think he found someone on the other side. That I think he found his twin flame on the other side. There's a mischievous spirit between the two of them. And I think there is adventure, an exploration with passageway. They have moved away from this immaturity and clouded, draining barrier. This is a true offer, I think, with the lady there, of companionship and a healthy relationship. I feel like he may have been uncertain initially, like, well, can I still have that here? And it looks like, yeah, you're ready now for that. And you can have it on the other side. He had to do shadow work and introspection. So he got introspection, and he got, was the one with the bat hanging upside down in the environment? Contemplation. And I think that's what he needed to do a bit more of, and what he was struggling through to deal with his sobriety and with his addiction. And it really looks like the work he put in before he passed, and then I believe some awareness that came to him and healing once he was transitioning and moving, changing into his light body. I think he was able to find and be able to have that, and has that now in his life. But I get that it took him to really look at the things he was denying or in denial about. And he had to be willing to look at it with his own eyes and not have somebody tell him it, is what I get. Right? This is crazy. This is it. Reconciliation. I think he has been able to reconcile also through doing his shadow work and introspection, also on the other side, as well as what he did on Earth. That's why it's important for us to do it while we're on Earth. I think he was able to heal some, perhaps, wounds that had been left or issues he had with others, and have more patience. And wouldn't just be a hothead or just a sudden volatile response. This is reconciliation. Maybe people he hadn't been as patient with that he should have been with. Maybe he was a bit of a stinker. Looks like he's reconciled with people that he felt like he should have been more patient with. Maybe like Lane and others. Trapped. And this says illuminated. So I feel like he realizes now, he has the clarity, he has the insight of how he trapped himself and what led to being in a trapped kind of way, so that he couldn't see, which clouded and was a barrier for him to make the kind of changes he needed to make. That he now has clarity on this. And it looks like a love that is soul, literally twin flame, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's just somebody that is a great match like no other, perhaps. So I'm very glad to see that, and that he has the illumination now. And I think the advancement of spiritual growth that he just couldn't quite get under his belt here, despite how hard he really did work. He shows me spying and separation. And what I got from this, now we are in Halloween season, but to me, this is saying we're never alone. It is we can see you. We're aware of what you're doing. We know what's going on. This separation is a delusion. So he is up to date and aware of what's going on Earth and in the world that he exists in, the dimension, I'd rather say, because we travel various dimensions. But I feel like he's kind of saying this is definitely an illusion, that we can see you. So we're not really gone. We're just in a form that's different, more spirit, and harder for most people to see. But they have the awareness about what we're doing. They know that there's, and I just feel like he's talking about that. And he's talking about independence. I think he feels very much now able to be independent without that anchor of addiction around his neck, and look, home. So to me, he's also saying the after quote unquote life, and we transition, is our true home. The sense of separation, we can always see and we have an idea about what you're up to. So there's really no true separation. It's all just about what you can see and what you can't, kind of, that you have to look at from a different perspective. And I believe this is him also saying he is well now, and he is independent, and he is in our, home, our true home. That dimension is our true home. And he feels well and is independent and is enlightened and growing in his enlightenment and working on it. That's so interesting. I almost can't stop. Commitment phobic. Again, he brought up the fact that he had an issue with commitment with the marriage card when that first came up. And he is more like a memory now. This says memories. So all of that is water under the bridge to him now. That is the past. And he is in the ever present, because time for, is really just something for earthlings to keep measure, use to measure. But I feel like he's saying, from his perspective, all that struggle and stuff is now part of his past. They are memories. And he feels very strong at home. He is aware about what goes on here and the band and all of that. So that is really cool. I'm going to ask him just for a couple more cards and say that's it. He says vulnerable and wisdom. Can't help it but do this. Toxicity, poison, and unrequited love. Look at the Grim Reaper there. The toxicity goes with unrequited love, wisdom, and vulnerable. This reading's really incredible. I think he's talking about definitely feeling like he has come to wisdom, greater wisdom through vulnerability. And vulnerability is by being somebody that's addicted and going through what he went through. And then we got the card literally of toxicity, which addiction is. Just poor coping mechanism. And unrequited love. This is trying to push something that isn't meant for you instead of opening to receive what is for you. So it's like you're chasing, and also the elusive high that people initially feel and seek to constantly re-experience. Okay, marriage, that's it. So I really do believe he's saying also, if you feel vulnerable, that use wisdom in your choices. You make good decisions. Ask people who have the knowledge, have the ability to guide you, to teach you, to show you, to counsel you about not succumbing to a vulnerable point and using toxic substances to get over difficult feelings of rejection and not and low esteem. And if you have low esteem, don't reach out for numbing toxic substances. Learn how to see things from a different point of view so that you're coming towards this issue with a healthy choice rather than out of fear. So that is what I'm going to leave it at. You have to, I believe, also love yourself, as corny as it sounds. You have to care about yourself. If you don't care about yourself or have some regard, it really shows. And it's to expect others to be able to see you in a different light when that's the message you're giving. And don't kid yourself. Go for counsel, help where you are vulnerable, and avoid toxic relationships that aren't healthy and choices that aren't healthy and associations, friendships that aren't going to be healthy for you. And that's what I get from Mike Starr. So I want to thank him. Thank you, Mike Starr. I love the way that he would spin. That was really cool. It's just, especially somebody that's physically disabled in this life, it's like, that's kind of cool watching him do that. Yeah, I'd do it. That's the memory that I like to keep of him when he was enjoying playing his music. And I'm glad to see that he has clarity, that he has romance, real, like, this is high level quality person, and one that is a good match for him. Not just a good match, but kind of made for him. And he made, like that song, I Was Made for Loving You. Yeah. by Kiss. Anyways, that's what I feel like I'm getting from him. It's interesting to tap into different artists and experience their feelings and their messages. And I'm really glad that Mike said, hey, read on me, read on me. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up so that my channel doesn't get buried and that it gets recommended more. Thank you so much. Make sure you're subscribed and share. Have a great day. Do subscribe. It's free. Bye.